So welcome to another edition of the Diversity Dialogue series. Today, my guest is Vijaya Kaza, who is the CISO at Airbnb. Also, I need to read this out from her LinkedIn profile. She's the top revolutionary woman in security, one of the top women in SaaS, has broad experience leading product engineering, management, information security at various B2B and B2C companies. Welcome to the show, Vijaya.
Ashwin, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
So happy to have you. So the topic is something that in my 300 plus conversations hasn't once come up. So I'm really excited to have you kind of be talking about this, which is really how do you manage cybersecurity with a product centric mindset, right? And again, starting off, it's always been about cyber has always been about risk reduction, right? And you have an interesting talk where you talk about emotions tied to risk, and then how do you kind of translate that into something which is more positive. So I'm going to put you on the spot and talk a little bit about what that means.
No, it sounds great. Ashwin, I think this is the power of diversity and diversity of experience, right? So I come from a product background, and naturally when I came into CISO role and thinking about how security practices are done, my immediate reaction was, okay, can we do something more from a product-centric approach here and looking at it from a different angle? So that's what prompted for this talk, really. And at the core of it, if you think about it, we as human beings do anything for one of two reasons, right? So we do something either to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. Lots of examples, everything we do from that perspective. I will give you like a simple, straightforward example that many people can think about: doing taxes. We do it because we want to avoid the pain of dealing with the consequences of not doing taxes, not because we derive pleasure from it. On the other hand, if you're planning a vacation, we do it with interest because we are genuinely, we derive pleasure from it. Yep. So obviously one of these generate positive emotion and the other generates negative emotion, right? And you can guess which one is which. But when we do something to avoid pain, the problem is because it is generating negative emotion, it introduces friction, and we try to put it off as much as possible. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, if we do something where it is generating positive emotion, we naturally are introducing, motivates us to take action, right? So this is why it's such a powerful concept to think about what human psychology and what impact it has on our actions. So that same philosophy and concept can be applied to cybersecurity. Typically, cybersecurity, if you think traditionally, we've always been looking at it from a risk-centric perspective. Yep. And when you think about risk-centric cybersecurity, it's all about avoiding pain, right? Because we try to reduce risk so that we don't get into breaches and having, avoiding all of the things that come as a consequence of having a breach. So everybody understands cybersecurity is important, but then treat it as a necessary evil because of that reason. So it then introduces friction, as we talked about. And so security teams are always constantly pushing teams to say, hey, please patch your systems, do the right thing, and take the training. And we become the people that nag everyone constantly, as well as say no to a lot of things that people want to do because we want to reduce the risk. So I think as a community, we can be much more effective as security leaders and security community if we can get to the point of making security as something that can be enabling people, enabling businesses, and showing that in a positive light and reframing it in that way so that we naturally evoke that positive emotion that we talked about.
Got it. So again, talking about reframing, I know you've had a presentation on this as well. So which is really taking a product-centric approach and applying those four facets, if you will, to cybersecurity. So walk us through those four stages and what each of these mean.
Yes, absolutely. So let's think about for a second about how do we bring that excitement that I talked about, right? And think about things that actually bring excitement to us. Any product, like you take a smartphone and an iPad, whatever it is, and it doesn't really matter which product, but we are excited about these parts because they give us some value. We derive value from it. A lot of times these are very innovative and cool, and we want to be associated with something that is innovative and cool. And they're very easy to use. Even kids can use it these days. Anybody can use it. And finally, they're very attractively priced, considering everything that we derive from them.
Yep.
So those are the four concepts, right? Value, ease of use, and innovation, as well as price.
Yep.
So think about information security through that lens and say, how can information security bring value to the situation or to the business? How can we make information security innovative? How can we make it easy for our users? And finally, how do we price it attractively? In this case, pricing means how do we optimize our budget ask so that the overall bill of information security is much more viable for the business, right? So once we start thinking about it from those lens, we can start looking at information security differently and start generating that excitement.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you a few examples, but one question ahead of that, right, which is, like I said, I mean, this is the first time I'm actually hearing a CISO talk about these things. And inherently, I mean, in your community, as you've been kind of voicing this opinion over there, how has the response been, given that it's been, like you said, it's predominantly been a, hey, how much have you reduced risk and me needing to report metrics to the board? How has this kind of mind shift that you're trying to bring about, how has that gone with your peers?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I want to be very, very clear. I'm not advocating that everybody starts, throwing away risk and stop talking about risk starting tomorrow, because that would be irresponsible, right? We can't do that. But what I do think, though, is that it is possible to incorporate the concepts of the product that I just talked about in small ways, in different ways that we deal with every day. And so it can be, is very possible to actually mix and match some of the concepts of risk and some of the concepts of product-centric approach wherever it is appropriate. And even to take those little steps, it can give you a big impact, right? So that's what I've been thinking, and that's what we've been pushing for. The first step, of course, is to even just internalize and realize the power of generating that positive emotion. And really, once we accept that, then we start thinking about it, every single thing that we do. Hey, can I make this easy for our users? Can I do this? Can I do that? It starts framing and helping you think about it differently.
Got it. So again, a few examples that you can share, stories that have worked.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are many things we could do, but I want to give a few examples that are as practical as possible so that we can right away incorporate that in our daily business. So first is, we all know that humans are the weakest link in cybersecurity. And we know we have a need to educate our users and train our users on a continuous basis. And the traditional way of doing that is, okay, you have this long, dry security training that is mandatory. Either you join a new company and you have to take that once when you join, or maybe you have a system where you have to take the training every year and check that box.
Yep.
But have we stopped and asked ourselves to think about, has that really changed the security behavior of any person? And did it move the needle in any way? Instead of putting our users through that torture, as well as, kind of constantly nag them to say, hey, take the training. Maybe one thing we can do as security leaders is take this upon us and kind of think about what can we do to make it easy for our users to consume the training, and also not just consume the training, but really change their behavior and make it more meaningful and in a way that they can retain the content and use it effectively. So some ways of doing that is, instead of having this once in a year long training, maybe divide it into smaller chunks and make it contextual depending on their behavior. Let us say, for example, if somebody clicked on a phishing link, then right then and there in the context, you give the phishing training. If somebody is not using a password manager, you give the training corresponding to that. So small nudges like that along the way, so you can make that much more meaningful to people. And also maybe make it even more fun, right? Yeah. Gamify the whole training, and provide them statistics about how they're doing against their peers, and almost induce some level of competitive, fun in that, right? So that's just one example. We can also think about other examples from a point of view of how do you make security seamless and transparent? It's always there by default versus people having to go to the lens of, doing something to be secure. One example is, if you start embracing the concepts like zero trust architecture, where you don't need to force your users to do VPN to get access to some corporate resource, but you have systems in place in a way that you take care of, the security by default, by taking into account the user's identity, device, posture, location, all of those, and applying policies automatically, and security just becomes seamless and it happens without their knowledge. So these are the sorts of things I think we can do more and more of. And once we start doing those things, people will see and understand security in a very different light. Yeah. So I was just going to say one other thing from a product-centric perspective is, in a typical product company, how do we build products? That also is another thing that we can bring into this, which is, as you want to show value to the users, if you take the user's requirements into account and bring them along your journey by, building an MVP, showing it to them, doing pilots with them, and constantly taking their feedback to improve what you're doing, that's sort of a typical, well-understood product development practice, right? So why can't we do the same thing within security by polling our stakeholders, understanding what their problems are, and making them partners to almost solve their problems, so that they're delighted by the value that you're providing.
Great. So I just want to add two things. So the last piece I completely resonate with, right? I mean, I've been in large and small companies. Not once have I ever had the CISO team come and join us and say, hey, by the way, what do you think of X, Y? It's usually been, like you said, hey, mandate, you got to do this training. Some new VPN is rolled out, some new zero trust is rolled out. It's like, and people are like, really? I mean, like, so you're looking at roadblocks. The other thing that I still remember, again, going back to making security fun, and this is, I think it was called Kahoots, which was a gamification thing. And it's like people loved doing it because it was like, hey, we were trying to outdo each other and want to see like who can actually get to that pole position first. And it was fun, right? And I still remember those examples.
Totally. I think the carrot works a lot better than a stick in general. So I think